does the industry really need in order to move forward? And what would it look like in your opinion?
You know, like, there's a part of me, I have like kind of two ideas around this, because like a part of me says, can we just be normal, right? You just like get us FDA approved and let us be certified organic and let us, do all the bells and whistles that all the other, that eggs and milk and, everything else can do, right? And, if there are processes or anything like that, like,
actually really excited. One thing for me that was I was really unaware of, actually not one thing, multiple things, like supply chain, human rights, how well connected human rights and our clothing are, things like that. And that wasn't revealed to me until I guess I shouldn't say wasn't revealed. I wasn't really educated, or I didn't take the time to educate myself until hemp was presented as a solution for that supply chain. And so for me, that was really, really, eye-opening. So when I read your posts and have read what you've said on LinkedIn, I was like, oh, I feel like you have somewhat of a similar story to me.
Yeah, I mean, and it's, it's like it's a problem with the race to trying to get the cheapest market out there, the most valuable, or try to get the most profits, right? Like you try to save money everywhere you can. And typically that ends up, unfortunately, in the hands of marginalized people, poor people, working for pennies on the dollar to create the products that we, kind of enjoy. And yeah, I mean, a part of our company is to try to create a system that will help address that issue, and we'll just create a way where we can kind of spend our money consciously is the kind of idea.
Okay, so I'm excited to elaborate, but really quick, for anybody that's joining, and as you guys pop on, feel free to leave a comment, say hello, like, share. We'd love to hear from you. I'm really excited to have Flip on our show today, and excited for you to introduce yourself. Before we really dive in, do you mind telling me a little bit about who you are and how you got into this, or I guess how you got to where you are today? Because there's a few different businesses that you're involved in that I want to talk about.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, I mean, I guess kind of the story is my background's in marketing and advertising. So I had an advertising agency. I'm based here in Dallas, Texas. Shout out to everyone.
Yeah.
But had an agency for about a decade. Then I sold that. When I was there at that agency, we had started a little agency that was focused kind of in the cannabis and CBD space out of our LA office. So I ended up running that, and I continue to run that right now. That's called Greenlit Agency. We're a marketing and advertising agency, and really sales and distribution arms as well for our clients. Based here and kind of working. And then I also have a brand, a CBD brand, or a hemp brand with my sister-in-law. It's called Goodkind, and we are a social enterprise. So 1/8 of our profits are donated to human rights organizations serving in the U.S. And we create, kind of the best hemp products. We kind of focus on what some people would call the minor cannabinoids, but CBD, CBG, and we have a few Delta-8 products as well that are flying off the shelves right now. But yeah, we're just kind of really trying to utilize all the other cannabinoids of the cannabis plant besides the illegal one, right? But hopefully, with legislation coming, we want to get into that as well. So
you said a couple of things I want to talk about. When you say sales and distribution arm, talk to me about what are you seeing on the consumer side as a request, or where are consumers really going when we talk about the hemp and cannabis markets?
Yeah, well, it really just depends on what market you're talking about, right? So our kind of experience, and I can kind of speak specifically to, Texas versus California. So California, we have a lot of kind of the diehard CBD fans, right, who come in strictly for really good CBD flowers, some good, hemp buds, really high concentrate, with a really good, terpene profile. People that are really looking for high quality, smokable hemp flower. And I think compare that to the Texas market, which even though we have that available as well, the maturity isn't there. People are really just trying to get to really a Delta 9 market here, everywhere, or everywhere like Utah, right? I'm sure the black market is thriving up there. But, our Delta 8 products are, like I said, flying off the shelves. Like the increase just in the past, 8 months of that product to market, and then its popularity, and then, and then now we're kind of in the dodging and weaving, stages. We're going through a vape mail ban right now. So we were kind of talking about this earlier, but now we have a national vape ban to ship vapes. Sorry. So we, come March 26th, we're going to have to pull our vapes from our online stores, which sucks. But focusing in the retail market, I think that's where customers are requesting, but you're also seeing I think the maturity and education is growing, and, people are coming in and asking for things like CBG or, different ways of smoking, or, kind of consuming as well.
Okay. So tell me about Delta 8. Why should people be paying attention? Why is this such a good product?
Yeah, sure. It's a THC cannabinoid, Delta 8 THC. I don't know if Mandy, have you ever tried it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it's an intoxicating effect, very similar to Delta 9, with about 50 to 60% of the potency when smoked or vaped. The cool thing is, your stomach metabolizes Delta 9 and Delta 8 as the same way. So it's actually a 1-to-1. So if you're actually consuming it edible, it's more of a 1-to-1 ratio of Delta 9. So you kind of give an idea of dosage. But the cool thing about it is that it's derived 100% from industrial hemp, total organic process, and it's covered under the hemp bill. And even specifically in the final rule of the hemp bill, which is really, really cool. So it's a market that's available in almost 50 states. Unfortunately, not Utah. There's 8 states that have, or 7 that have total THC laws, meaning, if there's anything above 0.3%, it's a no-go. So Delta 8 would definitely hit that mark. So, but yeah, so that's why people, I think should be paying attention, to that product, not only because it's like this, kind of legal loophole that we can kind of get high through recreationally. I think medicinally, it's kind of amazing the effects. People report that, they don't have any anxiety or paranoia that, maybe a strong sativa Delta 9 would, kind of bring you, sometimes, or, if you had any friends that, or yourself, that have taken, a little bit too much edibles, and then all of a sudden you start freaking out and you think the cops are going to come, So if you've ever had that kind of experience, Delta 8 is kind of a solution to that. You really, it's really hard to trigger that anxiety part of it.
Well, and I think that there's something to be said for people that are starting to get into cannabis, right? They're new users. Now that it's legal, they're like, okay, I'm going to try, dip my foot in. When you're walking into a lot of the dispensaries, you're looking at 20+% THC. I see Delta 8 as an opportunity to try the product and not hit that stage of almost narcotics.
100%. So I described it as like THC light, right? Like, yeah. And as a stepping stone, and to be curious, it's great because you can tell the effects, and especially if you're vaping, if you're smoking it, you can kind of tell the effects, sooner. So you'll be able to kind of gauge a little bit, because we all have had those experiences with those friends of those first times where, it's just too much. And, the weed today is really freaking strong. It really is. We've had a thriving black market for decades now. And these crops have been, crossed to increase Delta 9 and just get dankier and dankier. And so It's just the way it goes. And so, for a newcomer, especially someone who's curious, about, cannabis and its helpful effects, it could be a little challenging getting into any other product, So Deltata is a good little, stepping stone.
A stepping stone. Yeah, that's exactly. So I'm trying to think what else did you tell me that I wanted to ask about? When we talk about distribution, right? Through your marketing and distribution channels.
Yeah.
Hemp's pretty tricky and cannabis is tricky. Where do you see it moving? What do you see? What opportunities are available for people to promote product and get their products out there?
Yeah, it's challenging, and I think it's more challenging than other industries just because we're not as established. But it's a regulated industry, so you kind of got to play by the rules. So we're playing like it's alcohol or like it's tobacco.
Sure.
Just generally, I think if we focus on ways that are not, marketing towards kids or anything else like that, or trying to give our industry, in ways that give our industry a bad name, I actually think regulation is a good thing for our industry. But it also causes you to be creative, right? You have to figure out how to get in front of your consumers without all the traditional, bells and whistles. You can't just, it's really tough to just throw a Facebook ad up,
Right.
SEO is a huge opportunity, for CBD and hemp brands as well. So I don't know. I think there's a bunch of different tactics and stuff I think that we can implement and utilize. But I think in the end, from a distribution standpoint, I think it's all about your kind of local retail store, like going in and figuring out kind of that communication with that small business. I think is really, really, I think, important. And that's the coolest opportunity. If you kind of really answer the question, the coolest opportunity I think in the industry right now from a distribution standpoint is really feeding into these small businesses, like all these like CBD boutiques and stuff. Like no one's a corporate brand yet, there are no McDonald's yet, so they're all just still mom and pop shops. And I think that's great. And I think that's wonderful. And I think investing in those, spending time building relationships there, and utilizing them to be able to talk with about using these products and how they affect you.
Well, and I think that I've said for a long time that this is like a craft wine or a craft beer. Understanding the terpenes that what is the feeling that you want from your cannabis, or product that you're getting, and using it intentionally, not just going in and buying the highest, not that people don't, right? It's recreational. But as people are coming into the industry, understanding that there's other pieces and being able to know and talk to an educated bud tender and getting to know and have a relationship, right? And so I think that, like you said, going back to really the relationship of where is your product being distributed and who's distributing it so that they can service your market, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's 100% like a sommelier or a craft beer bartender or whatever who's going to tell you about the friggin' IPAs and the hops and
Yeah.
That's important, but also what's unique about these products as well is that it's if we're taking it as and I can't say plant medicine, right, but like as remedy as remedies or natural organic remedies or whatever, they interact with the body differently. Like everybody's endocannabinoid system is different, and some people need a little bit more of this and a little bit less of that, and it actually takes an ongoing curiosity and to be able to kind of, in a sense, mix and match and try out and see like what is best and how best your body really functions, if you're into that kind of stuff. And I think that the cannabis plant offers that opportunity. That's just, we've just cracked the tip of the iceberg for that.
Okay. So with the product that you guys have, you said earlier that you donate a portion of that back to a nonprofit. Can you tell me a little bit about your nonprofit and what your mission is there?
Sure. So yeah, our mission is donating 1/8 of our profits to human rights organizations, and this year our beneficiary is Dig Deep. which, I served on the board for, 3 years of, and have a great relationship with. And well, we bring water to Americans, the 2.2 million Americans in the U.S. that don't have running water. So right now, we're focusing in the Navajo Nation with water trucking programs, and where we're installing systems into people's homes and then trucking water to them. And then we just started a pilot program in Appalachia, where we're taking the existing water systems and kind of cleaning them up and help getting actually potable water to these people. And then we're also trying to figure out some other places, some other hotspots around. But that's that's what we do. I mean, it's kind of it's amazing to think that it's 2021 and in the richest country in the world, and we have American citizens that go without their basic human rights being met. And we hear about all the crisis everywhere else, and especially the water crisis in Africa, and that's so important, 100%. But we're just trying to direct a little bit of our focus, here in our own backyard, and really take care of the people in the communities that have been historically marginalized and pushed in the shadows of the American consciousness,
Yeah. Okay, so I had no idea. This is just one more thing. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I didn't realize that many Americans were without water. So,
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Well, and we didn't know. Actually, Dig Deep did a huge water study where we kind of figured out that number, because, and we're in danger. They're removing the question, do you have a running toilet, off the census, right? So we're getting less and less information about these people. They're just getting more and more into the shadows, if that makes any sense, So, yeah.
Our divide's getting bigger, is what you're saying,
sure.
Right?
Yeah,
okay,
between who you have and those who have not.
Tell me, I wholeheartedly believe that hemp is a solution for a lot of this, right? Mm-hmm. Just the way that hemp grows and its root structure and what its capabilities are for preserving the dirt and the soil, lots of reasons, right? Tell me where you see hemp as a solution, and where should people be focusing? Where should organizations like ours really be spending time to focus to make this, to bridge this gap, to prevent?
Oh, man. Okay. Okay, I'm going to answer that question first, and then I'll probably get reminded about the first question. But, I really think the hugest opportunity in our industry is equity, is this idea of, if we have this realization that, hey, we get to smoke weed now, right? Or the people who are sitting in legal states, right? You get to smoke weed right now, right? You do not have to go to jail to get high, right? The fact, if you can understand and recognize that freedom that you have has been brought to you, that has been built on the backs, there's an entire industry, an entire black market industry that's been built on the backs of black and brown people, here, in America, and, just used in a way to not only, villainize, cannabis and then, cannabis users, but also, not to mention, ripping families apart, and these entrepreneurs, right, who are selling drugs, right, but they, in a legal market, what do you call them in California? You call them entrepreneurs, right? They're just normal people. It's been built on the incarceration of all of those people, and so much pain and just tearing apart of families and cultures and really the fabric of society. Not to get too
demonizing.
Right. Yeah, totally. So I think anything that we could do to, my hopes and dreams is that we rebuild this industry in a way that is just, that is equal, that is equitable, and that it matters. Unfortunately, oh man, I don't see it going that way. If the legal markets are any indication, big cannabis is here, and it's being run, and it's going to continue to just run through. And if you look at every freaking cannabis program in the state, it's all just about large corporate MSOs that have millions and millions of dollars to spend. And guess who has millions of dollars to spend? The rich white dudes, right? So it's unfortunately, I'm just worried that it's going to go that way. But that's my hope and my dream. So if I could charge anyone with anything in this industry, it'd be like, think about it and just make some conscious decisions about where you spend your money, in your business, and who you spend your money with. I think if you're a business, who your vendors, right, and how they treat not only treat their employees and everything like that, but like what are their ethical practices, and then and try to trace it all the way down, and I think it's hard to do, but if we want to be participating, I think in the system of change, that's kind of, we have to do our due diligence.
Okay, and I think that this is really sad because it really is being put back on the consumer.
Yeah.
And the consumers, are starting to care, because our kids are who it's affecting, right? I mean, our generation, our parents, our generation and our parents' generation they're not really seeing the effects of our pollution.
Oh yeah.
Not like our kids are.
Right. Well, and so sorry, ding dong. And it's just like recycling, right? Like where the industry, the whole like we're polluting the earth and all that stuff, we have to recycle. Like we got pushed onto the consumers, right? Like you guys have to, and everyone forgets about the industry who's actually creating 100% of the pollution, right? And if you're in business, and I think it's just an onus if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you get into this type of business to do right, to do right, by yourself, and yes, by your bottom line and by your profits, and of course that's important, but not at the stake of our environment, our world, and of treating people with dignity and fairness.
Yes. So what I just kind of heard is that there's like this shift in momentum from buying the cheapest to caring where it comes from and willing to pay that little price difference to know it's organic, or it's made in America, or it's ethically sourced from a seed to cradle, not just seed to shelf, but seed to cradle solutions, right? And the greenwashing. I mean, there's been that's another thing that's been just revealed, this awareness for me in your ability to label something as a biodegradable or hemp product when it's less than 25% or 25% hemp.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, it's highly irregulated, right? I mean, it's just not regulated at all. So it's like, I mean, you got it. And the consumers are forced to take the brands at their word, which is unfortunate on a lot of things. But, I mean, you got to build trust with your customers somehow. So, I do think, I mean, that's, my theory, right? We're testing out the idea that someone does care, right? And I think that the hemp industry is still in its infancy to where it's really built on innovation. It's really like, it's the new way to consume. It's the new I mean, I don't know. I think we're kind of running out of things, but it's the new edible. It's the new, whatever. But I think it's quickly evolving into brands that are really taking a stance and saying, hey, there's an organic alternative, or there's a conscious alternative, or there's an XYZ, whatever alternative, and that's really what, fuels great competition and I think great innovation is when, you have brands that are standing for other things than just like me too. Like, hey, we have that shit too, I don't think it's all about that. Cause I mean, if you're just going to play that game, then you're just trying to market to everybody. And if you're marketing to everybody, then you're marketing to no one,
Bingo. Right. Well, okay. So you said a couple of things. You said that we're running out of, innovations, or I feel like we're just starting. Because you're mentioning or talking, I think, about like consumables, tinctures, lotions, edibles, salves, health and wellness, right? Where we're just hitting the iceberg for building supplies, cups, plastics, everything else.
Yeah. building materials. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, you're totally right. I'm definitely talking about, kind of health and wellness, but
I mean, but look at like
we are right at the precipice of like of it having the opportunity to really take over and be such a just more sustainable and healthy healthy alternative for the environment, for our world.
Right. Well, and I even look at like, even in the health and wellness side, look at the medical supplies and equipment that can be made out of hemp and what we're able to do, even for feminine hygiene, right? Look at what we're capable of doing due to the antimicrobial factors or or what it does for the earth as we're growing it. I mean, that alone, the carbon. Okay, so in order to do that, you said a couple of things. I think regulations really have to step up, right? What does the regulation look like? What does the industry really need in order to move forward? And what would it look like in your opinion?
Like there's a part of me, I have like kind of two ideas around this, because like a part of me says, can we just be normal, right? You just like get us FDA approved and let us be certified organic and let us, do all the bells and whistles that all the other, that eggs and milk and, everything else can do, right? And, if there are processes or anything like that, like, if we deem that, maybe ethanol extraction is not the healthiest way to do it, and we kind of ban that, or we, whatever, I might be for that. I don't know. A lot of manufacturers might be upset me saying that, but, I might be for that if it is for the interest of, greater public health. So that's one side of it, right? So I think one side of it is just like, let us be normal, right? Or let us be, be as strict as possible if you'd like, I think the challenging thing with that is that, and this is the other side of it, is that the higher regulations means more money, licensing, it takes extra effort and extra money in order to do that. The challenge with that is that you start eliminating people who are able to enter in the business and be able to work into the business and to create businesses in the industry, because they have, lack of capital, right? And that's the number one problem with startups. And it's challenging, because we need more startups in the space, because it's kind of ripe for innovation, especially before kind of regulation gets here. I think it's really, really important. And right now the barriers to entry are low. So it's a great opportunity for that. But as you bring in those regulations, I mean, it's just going to take more and more small businesses out, unfortunately. Right. So the other side of it is, choose brands that are transparent and that are telling the fucking truth about what they're doing, and that care, and spend, with those people in lieu of regulation. And I don't know, maybe that's where my political beliefs start intertwining with my anti-capitalism meets my, anarchy, where it's just like, just let people just do what we can and build relationship with each other and solve problems, right? Like, and not have to like go through the rigmarole of like, like, Mandi, I will not kill you. I will not put anything bad into your body. I will not let you do that. If I know that, I care about you.
It's back to the consumer being educated about what to ask, what risks are out there, right? Yeah. I think this is where I felt a little bit deceived by the industry, and I still do, because if I walk to a grocery store and I buy a can of soup, on the back of that can of soup, there are regulations that make sure there is a label to tell me what's in it. And if something's wrong, I know who is responsible for that risk, right? Or the grocery store does, or the manufacturing, or whoever it is. That doesn't exist in this industry. And so I think as a consumer, right, we've been conditioned to trust that everything I buy from that grocery store is underneath those same regulations from USDA and FDA and, the Drug and Alcohol Administration. And so it's not, and I think that there is this gap that needs to be filled. And so there are regulations that I think are necessary to protect us. And I think until that, we won't see it in our big stores, right?
Oh, however, yeah.
However, again, back to your consumer, right? Educate yourselves to know what is it you need and want, and what makes you feel good and what doesn't, and being able to trust your bud tenders or your processors or manufacturers or
yeah, 100%. Yeah, and do your due diligence, not to put the onus on, on the consumer, to solve a problem or anything. But I think if the Robinhood, stock market thing like taught us anything, it's like, well, it taught us that like power to the people, it doesn't matter. You will get your hand slapped because this ain't a free economy. One, but two, I think it does show you that it matters where we spend our money. And if we as a group and as a collective and as a people spend our money consciously, like we dictate the market. So like, I mean, we are the reason why Jeff Bezos is so fucking rich. Unfortunately, if we all chose to spend our money somewhere else, he wouldn't be as rich, but we don't, so it's just all about like, where are you going to spend your money? And I think hopefully people are coming to that, and hopefully people in this industry and consumers of this plant do, and start caring about that. And then there's some people who won't, whatever, and they just want to get high with their friends. Cool, more power to you, dude.
Right. Well, and there's, again, no judgment either, because there are far worse things that I could think of for sure. Right. So with this stigma, I do think though that this stigma sometimes is amplified when it's advocated for incorrectly or not healthy, right? So bridging that gap, earlier we were talking about the big money coming in, and really where I see the industry needs are around manufacturing facilities and the need for big investment capital and public-private relationships, right? How do we really break this stigma down that these very successful business people are also consumers and users and advocates, and bring these big brands on board so that they can say, we support the hemp industry loud and proud without losing 50% of their customer base or buyers?
Yeah. Well, I think the brands who aren't, like, for the brands it's going to make sense for, they're just going to jump on board, and they're already jumping on board. I mean, you're already seeing patents, you're already seeing, works from, large, brands and other industry, alcohol and other industries as well. I mean, I think it's there. I think the tipping scale is there. I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's just a matter of time where people are just going to be regularly okay with it. I think in my own personal journey, I think it's just for you yourself being okay with it, and then being forthright about that, and be willing to have those conversations if they're not so good, or they're challenging for others. I mean, people are like, what do you mean you smoke weed? Like, I don't know. I like smoking weed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that conversation of like, we don't, at least the way that it's gone, right? Like, I feel in my lifetime, at first people were very shunned by it. Oh my God, you're a stoner, pothead, bad, or whatever. And then, I feel like it's like moving in towards, I don't judge. I mean, fine, it's whatever, it's cool. Or even like, they could legalize a thing. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are in support of legalization, even, more conservative people and things like that, from the business side. But I think you're kind of moving to that, but they'll still look at you with a side eye or whatever, like, you just got to deal with it, I feel. And I think that more and more people who just in everyday life are, we come a little bit out of, the dank closets and say like, hey, whatever, you drink a glass of wine, unwind, and I smoke a joint. Cool. So I think that's where it starts, and I think that's where it starts in business. And I think that's where it starts, kind of everywhere, being able to kind of release that stigma. But I don't know, from the business people, Mandi, to be honest, I don't think it matters about the business people, because I mean, there's people in big cannabis that don't even smoke weed, and they're running cannabis brands. So it's like, whatever, like, it's just going to be industry. It's just going to be a commodity just like anything else, unfortunately.
It is. I 100% agree with you. But I think that there is still this, I hear a lot, brands say, well, I'll support, but we'll support behind the scenes. We're not going to post anything about it yet. We don't want to be public yet. So I think they understand that it's there, but I think there still is this stigma. And I think it comes with the progression of the industry, right? Utah is a little bit further behind than Colorado. If I'm living in Colorado, the normalization of the conversation is very different, and so I think that, and also out of necessity, in Utah, we don't have to talk about smoking weed with our kids as much as you do when you're in Colorado, because you see it next to you on a regular basis.
Yeah, totally.
It comes with progression. So I am curious, as we help promote the industry and help promote these people that are doing the work in the industry to create new products and evolve, who are their end buyers, and how do we, when I say bridge that gap, normalize so that these brands can come out and say, listen, we're going to build houses out of hemp and need 100,000 acres. What I mean? Because that's when we start really making impact.
Yeah, I think when it all, and people are already waking up to, when people are, you just follow the money. If it's going to be a big business opportunity, there will be, the big brands will and big corporations will follow. It's just the way it's set up. So I think it's a matter of time. I think we're already over the kind of hill on that and the downward just progression of when that happens. Like I said, the brands who I think right now whose consumers make sense with it, like Ben and Jerry's, for example. Like Ben and Jerry's comes out with a weed ice cream, no one's going to be surprised, and everyone's going to love it, right? Because the consumers they overlap 100%. If maybe Microsoft doesn't, like maybe Microsoft doesn't come out with, cannabis products, but maybe there's like hemp plastics and things like that could be, way that they can integrate and stuff like that. And I think people are, they'll jump on board. They're going to see it. And I think, ultimately they're going to see it as a marketing opportunity. If they can make more money, they're going to do it. So, right.
Bingo. I think we're very close to the tipping point of it no longer being a fear, it being the reason they're promoting it or using it. Is because consumers want it. Consumers are interested. There's enough education out now to understand that there are benefits, even if all that it is the carbon sequestering, right? Or the remediation of our soil, right? If that's the only benefit, people are paying attention. And thanks to some of the other marketing that's educated, like Kiss the Ground, or some of these documentaries that have gone out to really promote it. I think it's a huge benefit for charities, especially like yours, when we talk about taking care of the rural areas and the communities and providing a new resource. When's the last time we had an agricultural commodity come around?
Right. Yeah, right? Totally.
It's a completely new. So tell me about your future plans, right? With your company, where are you headed? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oh, sure. Well, I think, Goodkind, I think we're still in the startup phase. We're not even a year old yet. So, yeah, we've just, it's been great. I think our success so far. And, I hope that we're just going to keep kind of doing what we're doing. I really feel like, I love this stage of the game, like this part of business, the very beginning growing part is just like kind of in my blood, and it's just what I love. And so kind of that startup world is the startup environment right now is just great. And hopefully in 5 years, we'll just be able to be, sustainable and healthy, but we'd also be able to really affect people. And I think that's the biggest thing. We judge our success not only on our profits, but like how much money we'll be able to donate, and to how many lives we'll be able to actually change, and that's really the reason why we do what we do. So If we can, in 5 years, if we could just be there, continue to wave the banner for social enterprise or different business models or, brands to, be a little bit more conscious about, how they do about their business, then I think that we could we would call that a success. And I think that would make me very, very happy.
Yeah. So when we talk about getting in touch with impact investors or social impacting, that's exactly what you're talking about, right? Is companies or organizations that are investing with the intent to impact the
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anything that is tied to a like a social impact. Anything that's where you take a traditional business model and you do something. I mean, it's a Tom's, it's a Warby Parker, it's it's the Hari Maris of the world. So, I think that we've learned a lot from the large success of social enterprises that have come before us. Meaning, like, Tom's model, is it sustainable to have all those kids running around in those shoes that don't really last? Not really, and should we really have, would it be better to, give your local shoemakers jobs and being able to, resources to be able to kind of create those things and utilize, local resources 100%. But, they still did a whole hell of a lot of good, right? So how do we continue on that train and work on that model to build a better model of social enterprise so that it makes more sense for other brands and future companies to adopt them and to and to make it a viable part of their business. Not only, and also that consumers would like it too, and that it means something for the consumer to say, like, hey, I care about where my money's going, and I care about these things, and these brands align with those things. And so, as Americans, we have all the choice in the world, so why not make the best choice?
You have my wheels spinning right now. I've been wanting to do a hemp line of clothing for a while, just like the white t-shirts. And I would love to do a similar model, right? But profits back to an organization or a charity. So, yeah, my wheels, as you're talking, I'm like,
Oh yeah, well, I'm a startup guy, so like I will I will innovate and think about business ideas all day long. But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, especially with our apparel. I mean, if you just think about cotton and the extent of what that brand has had to do in order to still be viable in America, it's crazy, right? And so, like, how do we? I think hemp really can change that. But the market just has to be there. It's still not. That's the problem. Like, the real problem, Mandi, and maybe this is the start of your kind of idea, but is that hemp teas are still pretty expensive to buy in order to print. You can't. I mean, cotton is way cheap. It's just dirt cheap. Because it's also subsidized. So that has to kind of go over those hurdles as well. But it can, and hopefully it will. We just have to get there.
Yeah.
With people.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, again, it goes back to this supply chain we talked about. Once our manufacturing and our ability to manufacture at scale is competitive, with China and competitive with some of these other places, then we can lower our prices. But when we're small scale trying to produce big volume, you can't do it, and we just don't have the infrastructure for those that are wondering why isn't it? Because I get asked this all the time. Well, if it's so great, then how come it's not everywhere? Well, and really, I say I'll put it out there again, we really messed up by banning it. And even taking away our ability to study. We
really shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, and if you really, look at it from the historical perspective, if America was, at the turn of the revolution, I mean, we had a huge hemp industry. I mean, we were growing crazy, and cotton won, and like I don't think we have to guess on why cotton won, but cotton won, and our industry from then was, diminished into nothing. And then, we know what happened in the 60s and 70s, and now we're here trying to resurrect this poor plant. Right?
We are. It is though, and there's finally opportunity. The government's coming on board. There's public-private partnerships happening. The universities are researching. Banks are starting to open up a little bit. So with that, and with the change of our, leadership in our country, where do you think legalization is going, and what do you think it'll do to the industry? Like, what do you think it'll do for the industry?
Oh man. Okay. So, well, I think that since like all the Democrats are in, I think that we're going to probably have legalization here soon. I think that we're probably going to pass the SAFE Act relatively soon, which is great. So if we go that way, then we'll have decriminalization, hopefully have some expungement and some people let out of jail for these things, which is a whole program. And then hopefully some programs that help with those former incarcerated entrepreneurs, and then I predict it's going to be a shit show for a while as we get all the regulations and everything. I mean, just as it was in all the kind of rec states that went rec. God, my hope, and I would love if we like really instituted medical programs by state and kept it like that, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think, Mandi, your predictions are more correct in that way, where we're going to see big cannabis come through, and we're going to see a rec market, probably fledge around with all sorts of back and forth for, I don't know, 5 years, a decade maybe, before we actually get our shit together.
Do you think there's a chance that like alcohol, big alcohol, Bud Light, Budweiser, or Anheuser-Busch will come in and buy up the market?
Yeah, if there's opportunity. I mean, I could see them first in, I worked with Anheuser-Busch was a client of mine for a real long time, part of my career. So,
no way.
So I mean, I know kind of ins and outs there, but I think it's going to make sense for them from a product standpoint. They don't have any other products besides, beverages. So they're going to focus in beverages, any other, cannabis, Delta 9 stuff. They're going to be timid about it. They're all kind of, timid about it. I mean, one of my friends is, has a seat at the table over at Pepsi, and, every freaking, he told me every stock meeting, every shareholder meeting, the question about CBD just comes up, like, when are we going to get in this, and then cannabis, when is cannabis, are we, where are we poised for that? So I'm telling you, man, the money is there and people are thinking about it. Everyone is just playing, in the background and strategizing, and yeah, you're going to see it. Well,
look at even their plastic bottles, their packaging. I mean, everything about their supply chain can potentially involve.
Totally. And I think the only way any of those, like I said before, I think the only ways those are going to get turned on to any of the hemp side of it, I think it's going to be consumer driven first, right? From the effects, because I think that's what's the biggest thing in our, kind of in our consciousness right now about the product. But I think, I mean, as if it could get cheaper, if consumers can demand it, and, start purchasing, it's going to take the startups and the innovative brands to take the chance to use the hemp plastics as they are, expensive and stuff like that. It's going to take the consumers to say, yes, I'm going to spend that extra, whatever, because it matters. Then it's just going to take, time for that market to build until big corporations are going to come through and snatch it all up. So that's what my prediction is. That's what's going to happen. And it's just going to take some time for that to get there. And, and it's just going to take, it just has to be as cheap, unfortunately, to race to the bottom.
So how do companies, what's your advice to somebody that's in the market or getting into the market that wants to position themselves for success and understanding that, I mean, reality is that big companies are coming in, right? And big opportunity they're going to come in and buy up those that weren't successful or were unable to make a profitable product, right? What's your advice?
it depends on what you want to do. So like if you want to make a bunch of money, that's what most people want to do, right? I don't want to make a bunch of money. Right? Okay, so if you want to do that, then work your ass off right now, work in the regulation, irregulated market, hustle, sell your shit out of the back of your car. No, just really work it, I think, and position yourself in a few years, build up enough market share, build up enough customer base to where, you're right. Big cannabis, big brands are going to come through knocking, and they're not startups. They're not going to do it on their own. They're just going to buy something that's already successful. So just position for the payout, man. That's that's what I would say. If you care about, if that's what you want to be rich, that's what you do. If you have other aspirations, then don't do that. Please do something else. But if that's it, then there you go. And it's a great opportunity. You got a few years to, I think you got about a decade to really build it to where you could get some really good payouts.
Okay, you think 10 years is the mark?
Well, no, there's larger brands. You look at larger, if I could compare it to larger brands like in California, right? So like the Kiva brands of the world, right? Like they're positioned, they're already there, right? They're already invested. They're 99% penetration in the California market, right? They're already launching in several states, right? They also have a huge distribution arm that's also launching other brands, right? So they're positioned for that. They're going to go national 100% as soon as they can. They started, they're a decade in. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, is it going to take 10 years? Probably. To get to that, and I don't.
Well, and to build trust, right? We talked a lot about our returning. Everybody can sell a product for CBD. There's a lot of companies. I live in the MLM capital, right?
Oh.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody strapped CBD, pasted CBD on a bottle and tried to sell it that it would make their grandmother walk straight at the end of taking 3 drops, right? And so we've heard it all. However, I think that, those returning customers are where you really start to prove value. And I think that that's where, what is your end goal and who are you targeting and marketing to? And making sure you're following regulations. We have opportunity to set the standard and be that standard. And by following those existing standards in other industries like nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals or, the GMP practices. And those are very, very important. And so I think that making sure, ISO standards and ASTM and adopting to those so that when the regulations do come or those standards are set, you're an operating business. You are helping to set that standard. And so now my advice.
And then they'll save you money too. Trust me.
Yeah.
Try to do it cheap, and you can right now, but like something's going to come around and you're going to have to repackage all of your shit, buy back all of your products. You have to like retest everything. It's going to cost a lot of money. So do it right the first time. Oh, if standards start, in your ingredients, you got to resource everything. Come on. Like, it makes better business sense if you're not in it just for the quick buck and you're trying to actually build a business that is sustainable, that matters, that is going to have an impact. Then just invest in that. Just make sure your shit is good. It's really easy. I think if you really think about it, just like have a heart about it, like care, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that there's just so many entrepreneurs, so many people who get into business that like, for some reason, when they start talking about money and products or, they start talking about money and bottom line stuff, then it's like the whole idea of caring goes out the window. And it's like, it just like, doesn't matter then. It's like, yes, let's give them let's buy the shit from China. Sure. Come on.
Okay. So
let's go.
I want to talk about that because this is something that's been a real problem time and time again in investment opportunities or pitch events where somebody says sustainable and I watch investors' eyes gloss over because it's really difficult to be sustainable and recyclable and eco-friendly, right? And profitable. But
100%
hemp is a solution where we are profitable and sustainable. And I
Yeah.
think it's that education piece to be able to say, I mean, I cannot tell you how many times people have said, oh, are they the tree hugger type? Well, they are, but it's profitable, you know, because there really is it's a fine line, and big money is not going to come in because consumers are not willing to pay a double the price. They won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, not all consumers will, right? There's some,
very few.
right.
I mean,
Right.
Research proves it, right?
Totally. Yeah. Well, and especially from the sustainable standpoint, it's so great. Like I talk about packaging a lot in this industry, which is just really interesting. I don't know why. But
we pollute like crazy from it.
Right. And it's just specifically, the sustainability of it. But, from the marketing standpoint, the studies show that is not on the top of the list. It is a factor in a lot of American consumers, but it's not, like price is still quality, and price still outweigh, sustainability. And you only get into those other kind of higher echelons of, kind of customer choice when you start getting into brands that like, more organic or more conscious or more like bougie, right? Like class, like fashion brands, and you see things like that, right? Exactly. I mean, attachment to social status or whatever. Those decisions are being made before their mind is getting to sustainable. I think there's still a market for it, and there's still people who care about that. And I think there still are markets that care about it. It's not 100% of the market, but there are niche markets. And I think we live in a day and an age, I think especially with CBD, since we can sell it online, where we have a lot of choice, right? And we can choose the perfect product for you, Mandi. All the things that you care about, I'm sure that freaking exists. And if not, I hope it does. I hope someone does it so they can make a buck off of you. Like that, I think is where like I think we need to kind of focus on our time is to actually, it sounds counterintuitive, but to get more specific in your brand, right? To actually narrow your target, right? As opposed to, right. Yeah. And I think the mishap happens when people think, or young entrepreneurs think, I got to get people to give me money. And so I got to prove I'm going to make all this money, right? And what people don't understand is like, it doesn't work that way. You can't be everything to everyone. Not everyone is going to buy you. Like that is not the way branding works, right? There's people who love Coca-Cola, but there's also people who hate Coca-Cola and buy Pepsi, right? It is just true.
That's why there's two very successful companies.
Right. And like we need that. Well, I don't know if we need that, but the way that it's going to go is everywhere else, where eventually we're going to end up in an industry where we're going to have 5 or 6 top choices for every kind of product that are going to be kind of corporate. And then you're going to have this little sub-market that's the local Utah shit, the Texas shit, that kind of market. And then that's pretty, I mean, I don't know, maybe there's a regional market kind of thing too as well. But, if I can kind of hearken it to the alcohol industry, I can kind of see it, kind of go in that way.
Well, and if you think about it, hops are processed in very similar ways as cannabis, right?
Oh yeah, not to mention they look very similar. It's crazy.
Exactly. So yeah, I do though find it very, very ironic and kind of disheartening that our industry pushes for sustainability, health benefits, what it does on all of these different levels, and yet when it comes to packaging, because our consumer doesn't care, we don't care. And I shouldn't say shame, but like I really fault ourselves, because really if I'm going into a dispensary to buy a product for $60, 50 cents for a sustainable package does not matter to me. I could care less if it were 50 cents, and I could care less if you tell me, right? I think that we are getting close enough that our price margin is small enough that adding making it a consumer cost if it is and I hate to push that onto the consumer because really there's plenty of money being processed. It's just a matter of who owns that cost.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it
won't be a cost.
Right. I mean, how wonderful would it be if we had some regulation around the sustainability of our packaging within our product? Now, I think a lot of people would be pissed off about it, and it'd be very challenging. But I think it would be if we could, like I was saying before, we have the opportunity to right the wrongs of every shitty industry that came before us. Like we're resurrecting, we're rising this industry out of the black market. We have the ability, if we're going to regulate it, how do we do it in the right way that is actually beneficial towards everybody, and that's equitable towards everybody, and that would be great. But yeah, I mean, challenges come with that. But I think we'll see what happens. I think there's enough people who love that statement that I just said, and there's enough people that hate that statement that I just said. So that
everybody likes it if it's to their benefit,
mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's where we got to be careful. Is this a hobby or a business? And where are you? What's your end goal? If your end goal is to be a boutique craft grower, that's very different than taking it into a mainstream product. And there is a market for all of it. I mean, look at the beer and the liquor industry. I mean, it's everywhere if we compare it there instead of pharmaceuticals, right? But realistically, what trends are we following and how do we write those? And so I'm excited to continue this. I'm really excited. We're at an hour, so I'll end it.
Wow.
I'll time out because I could keep talking forever.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you back. I'd love to have you involved in any of our meetings. We actually have tomorrow a educational Q&A for farmers on industrial hemp. I host these every 2 weeks on Thursdays, and I'm doing all different sectors of the industry. I've broken the supply chain up into 4 different parts. This month is on farming, next month on processing, then manufacturing, and then import, export, and distribution. So I would love to have you on as a guest or potentially part of the panel discussion. I send out registration links. Anybody that registers has an opportunity to pre-ask questions, and then we do a Q&A type style. They're recorded and shared. And so, I invite you and anybody else that's listening to join.
Cool, rock on. Well, yeah, I'd be more than happy to. It was awesome speaking with you, Mandi. Definitely.
For sure. How do people get in touch with you, Flip? If they've got questions or want to talk about product or anything else you're doing, how does somebody reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, like if you really have a question about a product or whatever, I would say just email me, flip@goodkind.com. But I would just really kind of push everybody to the website and check out our products and check out our mission and what we're doing and kind of the business that my sister and I are building. And it's goodkind.com, GOODEKIND.com, or you can check us out on all the socials at Goodkind. We're everywhere. So come check us out, and to kind of see what we're doing, and get your hands on some of these products. I think once they get, some of these might not be lasting long. So
okay, so I'm going to put it out there. I got to find a way that I would love to try some. I'd love to share some or promote some for our guests. And so let's connect maybe after this or follow up, and however we can support you, I'm down.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Have a good one. All right. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.